great today. What about my sound?
Your sound sounds amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, from what it's saying, there seems to be no issues. I'm just double checking the upload time. How much are you at as I'm talking?
I'm at 99. No, now I'm at, well, it changes now. Now I'm at 99. 80.
Okay. All right.
99.
I'm around 23. I'm sitting around 23. So let's see let's see if it actually improves when we're working off the
it's good to test no matter what. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Hair looks good. Check everything. Check everything's in order. And I'm actually dead having my period again today.
Yeah. I'm
I
actually
just got new tablets and they've kicked in, and I'm like,
oh, lovely. So you're cheerful today. I had a headache as well, so I took some ibuprofen, but doesn't work for me the same way it works for you.
No, well, these ones are
not
really
at all.
strong, but they're not going to give me the side effects, so I'm not going to have the same side effects today. I hope. that part has passed. So you're liking what we're talking about today? I didn't put too much of discussions or anything.
My thought was that we could just wing it and see how that goes.
That never works out well for us, but let's go. Oh my God, you really want to edit.
I love it.
I love to edit you.
It's just that. No, honestly, just because I had a headache, so I didn't have the energy to actually think about what I wanted to say, and then I thought, well, let's see how it goes.
I love it. I mean, anyway, it's like a really genuine conversation that we're going to have.
I thought so too. So maybe it's good that it's not too scripted.
Yeah, just talking from the heart. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. So today we have a really special episode. We're discussing the challenges we face when we lack the motivation to change the way we speak to ourselves. Sometimes it's not a matter of... Okay, perfect. Today we have a special episode. We're discussing the challenges that we face when we have the lack of motivation to change the way we speak to ourselves. So that doesn't make sense, but yeah. Actually, I'm just going to say, I'm just going to just wing it.
Because I think maybe it's not about lack of motivation to speak better to yourself, but I was just thinking, when you have a period like this, isn't it also that you have much more negative thoughts?
Yeah.
Because exactly. I think normally, I think most likely your motivation to speak better to yourself is the same. My guess is that you just sometimes feel a lot worse and therefore have more negative thoughts. So maybe we could rephrase it a little.
I think I'm just going to go off script completely.
Yeah, maybe it's just about having periods where you feel really bad about yourself, where it's hard to flip the thought and feel better about yourself, where you sort of feel stuck in that feeling of low self-esteem and self-loathing.
Yep. Yeah, you did it.
Maybe you could use that.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm just going to go completely off script because I think that it comes naturally anyway. Okay, perfect. Let's go. Thank. Okay. So today we're talking about a slightly different topic. Today we're talking about a slightly different topic. We're actually going to discuss the challenges that come up when you're in the diet mindset, and sometimes just lacking the ability to change the way that you're actually talking to yourself. I think sometimes we can really get stuck in a negative mindset, and it's really hard to get out of that. And sometimes you really like feeling a bit down on yourself, or just don't have the ability to get stuck or get out of a rut that you might be stuck in. Sometimes we just don't have the ability to get out of the rut that we're stuck in. And for some of us, that can be a really big challenge. And normally in day-to-day life, I don't face this, but currently I am stuck in a rut and I'm not feeling so great about myself and I don't know how to get out of this. And I thought today would be a great time for us to really discuss like what's going on with us psychologically when we're stuck in a mindset that we really can't break. And how do we move forward from that? So maybe I'll just say, so today, not today, but so today we wanted to discuss how it is when you're stuck in a negative mindset and how, or what are some of the things that you can do to break that. I think for some of us, so basically I was just going to say, sometimes you're really just stuck in a negative, I think it's important for us to discuss what happens when you get stuck in a negative mindset and how you can try to turn this around. Today it's really important that we discuss this as well, because I'm also stuck in a rut and I would like to understand how I can get out of this. Yep. Okay. I don't have it.
I think for me, if we can wing it a little, maybe I can ask you a question. Is that okay?
Sure, go for it.
So did you notice when it changed for you? Was it like was there a special like occasion or time?
Not particularly, but I think that it's been creeping up on me for a very long time, just slowly. And I think it could have something to do with the effects of summer, or also like a quite intense, stressful period that I've been having in my life with work and things like that. But I've gradually noticed that I've been struggling with the ability to speak to myself in a kind of way, to have the normal motivating words that I would say to myself, by waking up with, affirmations, or even the ability for me to have my daily practice of yoga, like that's also dropped off. And it's just been a gradual slump. But now I've actually found this week where I'm just really like, whoa, what's going on? Like, why am I struggling so much to stay positive? And how do I get myself out of this? And I realized that, like, also my mindset and how different it is from other people's. Like, in general, I'm quite a positive person, and I really do have the ability to, to stay motivated, but also to talk myself around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
like I do
sense.
have the ability to sort of say, you've got this, Kirsten, or whatever, to motivate myself and to really like have these kind words that I say to myself. And at the moment I just don't have those words.
No.
And it's also, it's a little bit concerning, because like I'm kind of like, how did I get here?
The words?
When did this happen? Yeah, how did I get to this state? Like, how did I get to this point where I'm like, okay, Kirsten, like, like I can't, like I can get out of bed. Of course, I have to get out of bed. I'm going to work, but I can't motivate myself to get out of bed to do yoga. Like, even really small things, like, so stupid. Even really small things like putting on my moisturizer in the morning. I'm like, oh God, I can't even do that. It's like everything became too much.
Yeah.
And like, so even the extra mile that I do, in my mind every day, of like, you got this, and, really motivating myself, like that's definitely not happening.
Yeah. 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 So
yeah.
To me, it sounds more like a gradual decline of good habits, and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
And I mean, you have been really, really busy. You have been under so much pressure.
Yeah.
You say that the good habits, they sort of declined over a period of time. What about the negative self-talk? Did that decline as well? Or did that increase? Sorry. as well?
Well, I think that is the actual point that has changed, because eating healthy food and having a healthy diet, that hasn't changed. I'm still doing that, but it's actually the thoughts that have changed.
Yeah.
And it's not about having like a different self-worth at this stage, but it's really just about those inner thoughts that I'm actually having with myself, and the fact that I'm choosing to stick with those thoughts. Like normally I would just let them pass by. I would just say, okay, like that's a negative thought, let that go on, really, really let that pass. I wouldn't hold on to it. But at the moment, I'm really like, having that dialogue with myself where I'm like talking to myself, yeah, you've got to go on this diet. Like looking at things like saying to myself, like, okay, yeah, maybe you should do intermittent fasting. Yeah, that looks like a really good idea. Yeah, you can really lose some weight now. And where did I come up with this idea that I have to suddenly lose weight? Like, where is this coming from? Of course, I know that I have to lose a few pounds, but it's like, where did the focus of this come from? We discussed in our last session as well, like what it would be like after summer holidays, what it would be like when I got back to normal life.
Yeah.
And at that point, like I was also saying, no, I don't think like anything's going to change. But it kind of feels like it has somehow something shifted inside me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking if there's a bit of a trigger, because this year you're actually doing something new by not dieting.
Yeah, true.
If that,
it is true.
Yeah.
It really is true. Like, and I haven't actually, mentally decided. Like, I haven't consciously made that decision not to go on a diet. But at the same time, there are certain things that I do at this point in my life, like in the change of seasons and all of that sort of stuff, where I motivate myself to get through the next quarter. And I've also not done that. But there has like been a shift somehow in the exercise, because I never dropped the exercise, and that's something that has dropped off.
Okay.
Is the yoga, which is like essential for mind and body health. And so I think that the yoga dropping out has also affected my mental health.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Because that's also that's connection. That's the connection to self.
Yeah.
So that's where you actually take the time to invest in yourself, and also make sure that you're psychologically just like it's self-love. It's the process of self-love.
Exactly. I was just about to say so, that it sounds like your self-care, in a way, your self-love has dropped off a bit, like more harsh conversations with yourself, a little less moving your body, a little less taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And probably that's triggered by stress, like definitely with work and having less time.
Yeah.
And also prioritizing things such as work over my own self-care routine. And actually that happened before I went on holidays, because like I was going through an extreme period of like stress at work, with a lot of functions, a lot of drinking, getting up early, 6 a.m. starts and things like that, which really stopped me from doing that daily practice. So in that situation, yes, I can definitely pinpoint when it started to happen, actually.
Okay. So
it is, yeah.
So you never really got back to doing the yoga during your vacation then?
No.
Okay.
And it would be a good 6 weeks now.
Okay. Yeah.
It would be a good 6 weeks. And okay, so then we can actually see like where the rapid decline has come in.
Yeah. But
without the connection to self.
Yeah. Yeah. So the yoga drops off. You're super busy. When does these negative thoughts occur? I mean, we all have them. So it's not something like, okay, now I have negative thoughts. We all have negative thoughts. But sometimes we can have a period where suddenly we think, oh, I'm thinking way more negative thoughts than usual. Do you have an idea when that shifted?
No, I would say that it all started to happen quite gradually. And my own conversations that I have with self, like if I'm going to call myself self, but yes, the own conversations that I have with self is like, you know, like they're very motivational. Like, you've got this, your hair looks great today, you know, all of this sort of stuff, you know, like really motivational
can I ask you something?
Words.
Like, when you're thinking, oh, I look like shit, and you say to yourself, you got this, your hair looks great, what does that little thought in your head say back to you? Why doesn't it work at the moment?
When I'm saying that to myself?
Yeah. Why doesn't that work at the moment? If, as I'm hearing you saying, normally that would work, but at the moment it doesn't.
Because I'm not saying it.
Oh, you're not saying it.
Because I'm not saying it at all. I'm not saying it at all. Like, I'm stuck in the realm of like just saying like, yeah, come on, like, and I don't even want to say the horrible words that I'm saying to myself at the moment on this show, but like the words that I'm actually really saying are really horrible. And the fact that like you know, the angel and the devil, if we can call them that, but the angel is just like sitting and going, yeah, your ass is looking big, like, you know.
True.
It's true. Everything you're thinking is true. Like, you know, my worst fear is like that the angel is agreeing with the devil, and I'm just like going, yeah, Kirsten, like, where are you at the moment?
Yeah, and that is such a hard place to be, because normally we rely on, you would say, that part of us that can, I mean, talk sense to us and say,
yep,
stop it. You're perfectly fine. You look exactly like you looked 2 months ago, where you were happy with yourself. But at the moment you can't.
Exactly.
At the moment you don't have access to that part. So what is it that makes you so harsh towards yourself at the moment?
I have no idea. I really have no idea. I mean, I'm thinking that it's a change of seasons. I'm thinking that it's an overload of stress. And also just sometimes you can go through periods like this. This is also the thing, like, that we need to normalize that we are human beings and that we can change our minds. It's like I don't know, when I'm, you know, having my period or something like that, and I'm really like feeling like, you know, I can react in so many different ways to it, but like sometimes I'm having a conversation with my boss and I'm like crying, and I'm like, where did that come from? I don't even care about this topic so much, so passionately. And that's coming out, and, you know, like those feelings come out. And at the moment, like, I'm just going through a phase where I'm just talking negatively to myself. And I'm sure that this moment will pass and that I will get back to the normal positive person that I am. But at the same time, I'm in this phase, and we can all go through phases like this. And it's really important as well, I think, for our listeners to know that, like, when you're stuck in this, that it's something that's going to move on. But you also need to acknowledge when you are there that this is like a set of thoughts that are coming into your mind, and you're choosing to have these thoughts. You're choosing to stick with these thoughts rather than the positive thoughts. And that this is something that people can actually get over rather than sticking with.
Yeah, I think for me it's important to say that I agree, we all have these thoughts. I mean, I have them as well. I call it a fat and ugly attack. For me, it can be, you know, I would feel bad about myself, and then, you know, I look in the mirror, and then I'm like, oh, you look old, or you look tired, or you don't look fit enough, or whatever my mind comes up with. And and the thing I have learned throughout the years is that it's rarely about my body, because my body looks more or less the same. And then I can have periods where I look at myself with much milder eyes. and I think it's fine. I'm not perfect, but it's okay. It's fine. And I have other periods where I attack myself and I attack the way I look. And and what I find again and again is that it's really not about the way I look. It's about me. It's about if I feel insecure for some reason, if I feel out of balance, if I feel sad, then I tend to channelize, or is it called channel? This
I tend to channel, yeah.
I tend to channel this feeling of insecurity upon my body. And then I suddenly think I'm not good enough. But in reality, it's me as a person I fear is not good enough. It's not really my body. And I think that is really important to talk about. But just a second. Så lige at lade være med at gå derop lige nu, fordi det larmer helt vildt hver gang. Vil I være søde og gå ned og blive i stuen? Nej, I skal gå ned og blive i stuen. Fordi det larmer. Okay, men I må ikke gå ud af døren, før jeg siger, I må gå ud. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. I love it. It's cats and children. Isn't they? That's what they say. Don't work with animals and children.
So I think also about what you're saying is that it's really important to say we all go through these periods where we for some reason don't feel that good about ourselves, that we doubt ourselves and we doubt our worth simply. And then I think for some of us that sort of channels into bodily insecurities or negative self-talk. And I think this happens to most women actually, and for some it's triggered by a binge, or it could be triggered by your period and you feel a little bloated. For others it could simply be triggered by something as having an argument with someone or making a mistake at work, for example. So that insecurity would be channeled into feeling bad about your body. But I do think it's important to look at those situations where you feel like that, because you could say in that situation, or I could say what I used to do in my 20s when I had these fat and ugly attacks. I would believe them, and I would start planning my next diet, or I would start planning how I would get in shape. I'd be like, okay, it's not enough to just, do yoga. You would have to do like something really hardcore. And, it should be, I would like plan like working out 6 times every week or something like quite radical. Because I would believe the thoughts. And I think that's the point I think it's really important to make today, is that it's really important to step back and say, yes, I'm having these thoughts, but it's most likely not about my body. It's most likely about me, for some reason, having some doubts about my own worth. And because I think when we do that, and if you do that at the moment, if you step back and say, yes, I'm having all of these negative thoughts, but it's not just about my body. It's also because I feel it's a bit hard at work at the moment. There's other things that are hard. So if you start to say it's not all about my body, then you can take a step back and you can say, okay, so it's not going to be solved on the level of changing my body, because that is not where the problem lies right now. The problem right now is my thoughts. And what I find to be the most healing, and what I actually often suggest to my clients when they're having these sort of self-doubts, is to up the self-care. To simply say, no, you should not at all start working out more. You should not go on a diet, but you should think about, how could I take care about myself better? How could I take care of myself in a better way? because for many it's so usual, or it's so it happens so often, especially during periods where you don't have time for self-care. And when you don't have time for self-care,
definitely.
I mean, it just happens, and I don't have the exact explanation why it happens, but it does. And actually taking care of yourself is often very healing, because I think you're right. You can have days or periods where you have all of these negative thoughts, but you don't feel you have the resources to actually stop them. You just you feel, I have to go along with them because I don't know how to stop them. And often self-care, I find, is the way in. I don't know, have you tried that?
Yeah, actually. So, like, just for everyone out there to know, we did discuss this because this was super important for me a couple of days ago, that we discussed this today on the podcast. And since you and I spoke the last time, I sort of had started to pinpoint also that it was connected to the yoga and that connection to myself. And so for the last 2 days, I've been back doing yoga again, and literally I've started from scratch again. Like, I've just gone back to the basic, I've literally gone back to the basic course that I started yoga with, because I just felt like I felt like I was so off track that I had to start all over again. And it's not that I do have to start again, but I need those foundations again, because that's where I'm at, not rock bottom, but I'm at the bottom. I'm at a point where I need to remember how far I had come. So I've gone back to the start. And for me, it's actually like really difficult to do, because I'm back doing the basics again, but I also feel like this is the reminder that I need, that that I'm doing so well and that I've come so far. And so for the last 2 days I've been doing the basics again, and I actually have muscles hurting that I forgot that I had. And this is not just from not doing yoga for a few weeks. Like, this is basically that, like, from the basics I've come so far that it's just like I've started to feel new muscle groups again. And to be really honest, like, just those 2 days of doing yoga have really improved, have really started to improve also, like the psychology and the conversations that I am having with myself. And I think that was a great move for me to do, but I feel like I'm still in a danger zone where it could go negative again. And so I just really have to keep this one thing up. Like, if I just make one promise to myself, is that I just continue to do what works for me. And another very interesting thing, which you sort of brought up, is also something that hasn't happened for me at the same time, is that, sorry, I have to burp. So another interesting thing that's also not happened is that I haven't changed my diet at all. I haven't been binge eating or eating rubbish or anything like that. I also haven't had any of the stress triggers where I'll drink wine or something like that after work because I'm super stressed out. I haven't had any of those triggers. So in this process, I also have to acknowledge that I have come far because I'm not also reacting to the stresses or reacting to this low feeling. It's just that I'm having the low feeling and I'm trying to go through it, and I'm trying not to listen to the devil on my shoulder and trying to sort of get through it.
Oh, that's amazing. It's not really a small step. It's a huge step, because what normally happens is that when you start having all of that self-doubt and all of those, I shouldn't lose 10 kilos in 2 months sort of thoughts, then what normally happens, I don't know if it normally happens for you, but for most people what would normally happen was that you would at some point end up binging. And you would think, no, I need to do this more radical, more tough, and then you would binge. And And I think it's amazing that
Well, I mean, I gave you some truth. I didn't give you the whole truth.
So let me have it.
Okay, so there was a stage last week where I also did, okay, let's say maybe wrote the most psycho, maybe wrote the most crazy plan for myself. Yeah, no, there was a stage last week where I did write the most crazy program for myself, and it involved me getting up every morning at 5:30, doing yoga, walking to work. I can't remember what else I had in there, but it was so insane. I had 2 different days, for the days where I work from home and then from the days where I work from the office and all of this sort of stuff. But I did it, and I realized how crazy it was. And also the other things that I was thinking about doing was like I had all of these things. I was doing research into intermittent fasting. Like, I don't even know what I was doing. And at the same time as I was doing them, I was also not doing them, if that makes sense. Like, I realized that it was just like a process, like a learned habit that I was doing, and I was going through it, and I was like going, okay, this is really not for me. Okay, this is really not for me. But I did do it.
Yeah, but I guess it's sort of hard to let go, because while you're doing it, I guess you feel some sort of relief. While you
I think I feel some sort of comfort, because I know that I can do it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's worked for me in the past.
Yeah.
It's just hard to let go of that habit.
Yeah.
And so when you've got that habit, it always makes me feel good, because then I start doing it, I lose, the immediate 5 kilos, and then I'm back to, 2 weeks later feeling like, burnt out or something like that from trying to do too much. And so I realize what the pattern is and what's going to happen to me if I do it. So I'm also like, I'm setting it all, but then I'm saying, no, you're not going to do it. And maybe that's also why like this dip has come, because I haven't gone back to it like any sort of like binge eating or eating junk food or anything like that. But I'm also just feeling stuck, because I can't do the things that I would normally do.
Yeah, that was,
and so I'm really
that was actually my thought, that this is the first year that, I mean, as far as I understand you, then every summer when the summer ends, you have this, okay, now I'm going on a diet. Now I'm going to make everything okay again, and I'm going to do this.
Exactly.
And even though every summer, it's not going to work long term, at least.
Yeah.
You have this diet high every summer. Like, you have a few weeks where you really believe in it and you think this is great. And this summer, you had the same impulse to do it, and you wanted to do it.
Yep.
And you still decided to say, no, I'm going to work on my habits in a much slower but more consistent way. And that does not give you the same high. It doesn't give you that sense of, wow,
no,
now I'm doing something about it. Yeah. So I could imagine. Yeah, exactly. I could imagine that would give you some a bit more anxiety, really, because you don't have your usual habits to comfort you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it has actually. Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm better stop moving around. Yeah, I feel like it definitely has probably had an impact on me. And even if we look at the way that maybe I started the summer, because we were having these conversations before this, and even before we started the podcast, like I was already in the mindset of not wanting to be stuck in a diet mindset, like, really stuck in like a process of like body positivity and having, speaking positive words to myself. And so I was already on this train, but I think something has almost shifted since we started the podcast. And I'm also listening to the words that like we're discussing, and really trying to not get into that diet culture and all of this sort of stuff. But now that we're really talking about it even more, like I am actually missing that high.
Yeah.
And to try and stop myself from doing that high, I've also like somehow something shifted because I've also gone beyond what has been the norm. So the norm was actually like doing yoga routinely, sticking to a normal, like, you know, just a really well-balanced diet, just eating enough, you know, trying not to overeat and all of that sort of stuff, listening to my body. So those things are still in place, but the yoga dropped out. And I think that's got a lot to do with self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this can happen to all of us. It happens to me as well. At the moment we're moving and we're in between houses and living with my mom, and it just makes all of your regular habits quite hard to follow. So I get that. It's really, really, it's tough to do that. And it's been, I mean, even though you're having a lovely summer vacation, it's still much harder to follow your regular habits than it is when you're in your everyday life.
Yeah.
And I myself at the moment, I'm like, wow, I haven't really, you know, I haven't been able to go to the gym for a couple of months, and I'm like, oh, I really should. And I have these thoughts as well around, you know, you should do more. You should do more. And for me, what happens when I start having these thoughts, well, then you should really go to the gym like five times a week or whatever. Then what happens most likely is that I stop doing the little I actually can do, because then I'm suddenly in the future. I'm like, yeah, but when we do get the new house, then I'm going to be super fit.
Yeah,
but
the when.
exactly. But
yeah.
You and I know myself well enough to know that can so easily become, you know, the thing that makes me not do anything now, because I'm like, yeah, but the things I can do now is nothing compared to what I can do when we have the new house. And
exactly.
And that is to me one of my high risk situations where I really have to stop myself and think, well, maybe you can't work out exactly in the way that you would like to right now, but what could you do? And at the moment it's like I spend 15 minutes on a rowing machine, and it's not much, but it's much better than thinking I don't have to do anything because when we have the new house, it's going to be crazy, right? So
yeah,
so
exactly. You're going to be rowing all over the place.
Exactly. So and I think that relates a lot to dieting, really. That it's dangerous to think, well, right now I don't really have the energy, but after the vacation I'm going to be so strict with my diet. Or for you at the moment, not thinking, well, I haven't really done my yoga, but now I'm not only going to do a little bit of yoga, I'm going to do an hour and a half a day, you know, to compensate. And I think exactly. It's great that you're not doing that you're just going back to your regular habits, because that, I think, is what we all need to do. I mean, what I need to do as well, what I need to remind myself of as well, to stick to my habits. And, you know, sometimes you're in a situation where you can stick to the habit of working out 4 times a week, but you might not be able to stick to the habit of doing it in the same amount of time or the same way, but you can still do a little bit. And I think that's the thing about your yoga, or the thing about eating habits, that sometimes you can't eat exactly in the way you would like to, especially if you're not at home, but you can still do a little bit. You don't have to just, you know, pause everything, pause all your good habits and think, well, I'll do much better in a month, because most likely you won't.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think that that's also what happened to me after I got back from the summer vacation, was that I was really, really loose on the summer vacation. But at the same time, I really enjoyed it. I didn't, like, you know, punish myself or say anything negative to myself about eating the food that I loved, because I was in Italy and I could eat gluten-free food, plant-based food. Like, I was so happy. And I didn't stop myself, and I didn't want to either. But then in coming back to reality, and I said that I wasn't going to do it, I still just couldn't get back to any routine, even though the diet stayed healthy. But it was the fact that, like, I couldn't get over the hill. And I think that it's enough for me now to realize that wanting to do too much was really starting to affect me psychologically, because all that I needed to do was the little that I could do. And being out of that routine, I think that I was doing, under a stressful period of my life, I was doing exactly what was required of me, the bare minimum, just sticking to a healthy diet.
Exactly.
Then I went away, and then I came back, and I was like, I just had to do, all I had to do was just stick to a healthy diet. That was all that I needed to do, nothing else. Adding the yoga back in now, after a stressful period in my life, I'm realizing now was also the bare minimum that I can do. And I just need to take this slowly. And eventually, if I do stick to this and also just have the, the routine of self-care, which is the bare minimum that I can do at the moment, I'm going to be fine, and I'll get back on track. But it's also breaking that habit.
It's definitely breaking a habit of being harsh on yourself, really. And oh, I lost the thread here.
No worries.
I mean, I think it's really important that what you can do with this experience is that you can learn from it. You can say to yourself, okay, next year, or after you're going home to Australia for the winter, right? Or for Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, that's also another trigger at the moment. But
that's because that was my thought, because I could imagine at some point you'll be having these thoughts again around, I should lose weight, because that's what you usually think at this time of year.
Time of year. It's exactly this time of year. This is, so I finished the summer holiday, and then I already start planning for Australia, because I'm booking my tickets now, and I'm thinking, okay, I can lose 10 kilos before I get home.
Yeah. And I think it's really, really important to realize that when you start dieting, when you decide to stop dieting, it's also very anxiety provoking, because normally you would say, phew, well, not a problem, because I'll just lose the 10 kilos before I go home. This year, I mean, even though it never happened, you could still say that to yourself, and you could still feel a relief, because now I'm doing something about it. This year, you don't have that. So this year, I think you can feel the anxiety more. You can feel the discomfort. And in a way, you feel my guess is that you feel the consequences of having eaten more during the summer a bit more, because normally you think, well, I can make up for it by dieting in September, and now you've decided not to diet, and then you're like, how am I going to make up for this?
Exactly.
And that I think would be very good for you to just write down and say, when I reach the point or the time of year where I normally would start dieting, I will most likely crave to go on a diet, and when I don't, I will feel bad. And because then you can start to remind yourself and say things like, well, I know I did start a diet every year, but I also know it never really lasted. So I've really lost nothing by not going on a diet. So you sort of just talk sense to yourself and say, it would give me a false sense of doing something, but really it never worked. So to just say, okay, but and what are you doing at the moment? Because you are actually doing something. It's not something that will make you lose 10 kilos before Christmas, but you are doing something. And what you're doing is much more long lasting than going on a quick diet now and end up binging in October.
Well, so in actual fact, it probably would make me lose the weight that I've, or a nice amount of weight, and get me back to being body confident again within a certain time frame. But it's going to have longer lasting results than any diet would. And
so are you saying that the diet, if you went on a diet, would you lose the weight? Or if you lose weight?
No, if I just stick to what I'm doing, the bare, just the basic minimum. Like if I stick to what I'm doing right now and tell myself and remind myself that this is enough, this will be absolutely enough. And that's what I have to realize is statistically everything, to do yoga every morning, body, mind and soul, all of these sorts of things, this is exactly what I need to do right now, because it's going to have me feeling happy and keep me on track long term. That's it.
And imagine if you wrote that down, what you just said. And when you hit those days where you're like, it won't work, I mean, it's horrible, I'm never going to lose weight, you're going to take you're going to look at that. And I like those letters, and because you can write to yourself. You can say, hey Kirsten, if you're reading this today, it's probably because you're feeling really low and you don't know how to tell you to say this to yourself. But I'm going to tell you that when you're feeling fine, this is how you would think about this situation. So you could help yourself, and you can find that letter, and you could say to yourself, no, this is actually most likely my only option to finally get rid of dieting and finally lose weight long term.
Break free from the cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
This is because you've tried the other things for 25 years or more.
Yeah, totally.
So I mean you've been dieting for what, 30 years?
Yeah.
So you exactly. And I mean, I always like to test things, and you could say you have tested dieting quite thoroughly. It doesn't work.
I think I'm quite good when it comes to being a bit of a tester there. Yes, definitely.
So you already know that is not an option. I mean, it feels like an option, but it isn't. You know it won't work. So now you're going to test something else, and that takes courage, because you're used to doing the diet thing, and I mean, in a way, even though your brain knows it won't work, you still most likely feel that it might work this time. So it is sort of the it is, but I mean, it is sort of the brave move. But and I think you need to remind yourself of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I also just really need to remind myself sometimes that I'm doing okay, and that just enough is sometimes all that you can do, and you don't need to do anything else more than that.
And just enough is mostly and just enough is most often the best you can do.
Yes, exactly.
I was actually thinking about doing a post on Instagram the other day about perfectionism, because what I see is that the people who are the most perfectionistic about their diet is also the ones who never loses weight, because they get so into the detail, and they only feel that it's good enough if it's 100% okay, and if they lose exactly the right amount every week. So if the weight stagnate, or if they only eat correctly 80% of the time, they will feel super demotivated, and they would drop the diet instead of going for just doing good enough most of the time, because really that is okay. And I think
definitely.
And I think it can be, if you know this about yourself, you know, I have a tendency to be too perfectionistic with my diet and feel that I should, you know, do more, do better. Then it would also be something that would be great to remind yourself once in a while. Just say, you know, just doing what I can is not just, you know, okay. It's really, really good. If you would get in a habit of always doing the best you can, it would be a really, really good thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It's really, really true. And during this time, during this period, one other thing that has changed, which has been probably also, I'm now reflecting on the words that you say, because I am plant-based. I am always worried about the amount of protein that I get, and I do have the tendency to obsess. And as we both know, I am a huge perfectionist. So in that case, like when I'm doing that being vegan has a little bit made me channel my perfectionism into something which is really good for me, because it means that I'm super healthy in that regard. But it's like I do still have that ability to obsess over something. So while I've got that there, I do obsess over it. And when we talk about doing the bare minimum, all I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 weeks is just making sure that I'm eating healthy, I'm getting enough greens, and I'm getting enough protein. And I'm not obsessing about how many grams of protein I'm getting and all of this sort of stuff. And to be honest, it's been a bit of a relief. I'm not saying that I'm eating junk food and that I'm eating in a bad way, but I'm just not obsessing over what I'm eating. And that's also probably taking it. Is actually, it's kind of a bit of I just haven't had the time to. No. Like just to be like, okay, I don't have like I'm getting up at 6 a.m. to go to work, or 5:30 in the morning to go to work. Okay, I'll just make myself a quick protein shake, because I didn't even have the time to go and get any sort of breakfast and all of this sort of stuff. I mean, really making, you know, my scrambled eggs out of like tofu and all of this sort of stuff, all the things that I do in a day. And I'm actually taking out a little bit more, let's say, processed foods, maybe not processed foods, but like in veganism, you can tend to sort of go into eating more processed foods and things like that. But instead of obsessing over those sorts of things, I'm just grabbing the things that I know are essential to my diet, a bit of protein, and making sure that I'm getting enough greens in my diet, and that's enough.
That sounds like an 80-20 approach to it. And yes, it's fine. And and I think it could be would be very healthy for you to do more of that, to simply put all of your thoughts around eating, you know, a bit more in the background. So it's because I mean, I think, or at least for me, I really like it when I don't think that much about food. When I like where I am now at this time in my life, where I get up and then I think about food when I'm hungry or when I know it's mealtime or when I go shopping. But I don't think about food all the time. I don't obsess about it. I don't know how many calories there are in things, which is quite amazing, because at one point I knew how many calories there was in everything. And now I have forgotten. And I think it's such a relief. And I think for you, I think it would actually be easier to let go of the whole diet mentality if you could also let go of the perfectionism around your food.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I thought that I had let go of the diet mentality.
Yeah.
But in this discussion that we're having today, I realized that I haven't. I've just turned it into a different obsession, which is being plant-based, being vegan. I've just turned it into, am I getting enough? Like, I don't think about calories. That's one thing I don't do. But it's like, are you getting enough protein? But it's exactly the same obsession. It's just turned into another beast so that I don't have to identify that, or I don't have to say, so I can say, yeah, I don't diet. I'm not on the diet train, but I actually am.
Yeah. And I
so I'm
totally
still stuck there.
Yeah. I mean, I recognize that. I had a long period where I was paleo or ate paleo, and I think if I look back, I think at the time I would have said I'm doing it to, to be healthy. And honestly, I think I did it to lose weight, or at least manage my weight. And and I think that it's often the honest answer behind a lot of these different approaches to eating. I mean, I think it's I think it's great to eat in a certain way for moral reasons, or because you feel it's healthier. But I really always think we should ask ourselves, are you doing it in the hopes of losing weight? Are you doing it because you feel it's more healthy or more ethical or whatever? And I do think that a lot of choices, at least it's a bit ambivalent, I think, for many.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say definitely in my case, like I know the reasons that I am vegan, and it has to do with like my basically like women's health, with like polycystic ovary syndrome, and it really assists that. But it's also for ethical reasons. I've been vegetarian for more than half my life, all of this sort of stuff. So the two go hand in hand. But at the same time, in not being on a diet and telling myself that I actually am. Yeah. Actually I'm on something that I can obsess over. Yeah, so this is also something that it's also something that I need to be aware of. I was just about to do the same thing that I do with everything. This is something that needs to stop. This is not that is something that needs to stop. And I need to stop telling myself to stop doing that.
Yeah, but the nice thing is that what you need to do now is actually what really works really well for your lifestyle. I mean, you don't have the time to obsess about your food.
No,
you don't, and you're trying to anyway. So my guess is that would leave you quite stressed out. So actually, not obsessing about food would be a really good thing for you on many levels. And you've already done it for a few weeks and you survived. So you just need to.
That's true.
Keep going.
Need to deal with my mental health.
Yeah, you need to keep going, and you need to realize whenever the thought hits you that I need to do better. I need to be perfect at this. You need to step back and say, no, this is not about my health. This is about me being a perfectionist, and I don't need to be it here. Maybe not at all, but you all don't need to be it. No.
Yep.
No. So you just need to see it as a thought. It's not something you have to do. It's not the truth. It's just a thought.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the reason that we decided to have this today, this discussion today, was really because this is something that I felt was very important for people to hear. I think that there's so many times that we can talk about, not being on the diet or being in the diet mindset, and how good it is to, talk about body positivity, and all of that sort of stuff, and how easy that is. And sometimes I can also make it sound, it's so easy to talk well to yourself and love your body and all of this sort of stuff. Okay, yes, I'm in a great place that I can do that. Not everyone is there. Other people struggle with different conversations that they have with themselves, and I wanted to be very transparent that I'm going through a phase that I'm struggling with. I wanted to talk to you about it, and I wanted our listeners to hear the fact that I'm also being really open about it, and that you also, through this conversation, have opened up about the fact that you also feel exactly the same. And I think that this is a very important thing for people to hear, and that you will eventually pass this moment. All you need to do is the bare minimum, and that's enough.
Exactly. And I would add, not believe everything you think.
Hey, that's true. That's also very true. Very true. I think I need to go and write myself a little letter now.
You really should. I mean, it sounds a little stupid, I know, but it's actually, my light is so weird. It sounds a little stupid, I know, but it's actually extremely helpful because I mean, as you said, the way you feel about yourself is not a static thing. It's not like I'm always super happy with myself. I always have high self-esteem. Sometimes you feel bad about yourself, and sometimes you don't even know why you feel bad about yourself. You just do. And that's normal. That's a normal part of being a human being. And for those days, it can be so helpful to just have a little letter with encouragement, because you can actually tap into the wiser Kirsten on those days where you can't access that part of you.
Yeah. I think that's really, really good to know. And I will get through this.
You will.
It is just a phase, and I think I'm already out of it.
It is just a phase, and I would really recommend that when you have these thoughts, try and take a step back and say, if you could sort of look at it and say, oh, that's like, that's odd. Now I'm having that thought again. Really? Why would I think that about myself? If you could try, take that distance to yourself, then it's much easier not to believe the thought. Because as I said, we all have them. I mean, I can have periods where I'm really overall happy with the way I look and my body, and then I can have other periods where I, for really most likely totally other reasons, feel insecure. And then it's like I have a new mirror. It's like the normal mirror I look in where I feel fine. Suddenly it's a new mirror, and I look horrible, and I look old, and I look wrinkly, and it's all bad. And it's so important at that point to not believe in those thoughts and just say, wow, that's a lot of negative thoughts about yourself today. I wonder what that is about. And not think, wow, why did I not notice that I look like shit? I mean, because that would be, the normal way to go, right? To believe the thoughts. But you need to step back and say, what is this about? Because normally it's about me being sad or me being insecure. And it can be a work thing. It could be something totally unrelated to my body, but it still comes out in the way that I look at myself in the mirror. And that is not a catastrophe. It's just the way it is. But it could have some very negative implications if I believed what I thought, if I believed what I saw. So I think for you and for me, the most important part is to practice not believing in it. Just saying, this is not the way I feel 80% of the time or 90% of the time. I feel totally different about myself. So the fact that I feel like this right now, that's not normal. And it's not the truth. So it's not about that. It's about something else. And I need to figure out what that else is. And then I need to nurture myself to feel better about myself. And then suddenly you wake up and you look at yourself in the mirror, and then you're like, hey, I look quite nice today, right? so
exactly.
Suddenly you get your old mirror back, and it's great. But
yeah, that's so nice. I like that analogy. I think I need to go and polish my mirror.
Exactly.
And I think as well, like the key to anyone who might be going through this or having a similar experience is pour yourself a hot bath, have a cup of tea, give yourself some chocolate, and just lay in there, spend some time with yourself, and just say what's really going on. Polish your mirror. And start having nicer conversations with yourself.
Exactly. And be really good at yelling bullshit whenever you hear your brain telling you something that you deep down know isn't true.
Absolutely. Perfect. I love that conclusion. That was really nice.
Can I say bullshit? Do we have to rate it now for adults?
No. It's X-rated. How am I going to do, like, instead of trigger warning, we're doing X-rated? Oh shit, no. I don't think so. What did we say we're going to discuss in another one?
That would be, we were talking about, the whole Pernille thing, and I'm thinking maybe we should try a few episodes where it's a bit of a more softer conversation like today. So maybe not to like these 4 options. Maybe it could just be around. Maybe we should think about something else. I'm thinking maybe we should think about some other, more psychological point of view that's not so technical, but just like thoughts on it. I'll think about it.
Have a think about one of
or we could do the part. We could actually do one about perfectionism, because I think that is quite interesting. I'm just going to stop recording.
True.